Hello everyone, my name is Heather and welcome to the channel Bookables. Today I'm here to talk about my favorite romantic trope of all time, hate to love. I adore hate to love. It's something about when two characters start out the book really loathing each other, thinking I can't stand them. To the end of the book, they are madly, deeply in love and can't figure out how they went on with life without them and how they're gonna go on life without them. It is just amazing. I love all romance books and all romantic tropes for the most part, but hate to love has this special place in my heart. I have done several of these videos before. I've done a hate to love. I think I did more hate to love. And today we're going to talk about my all-time favorite hate to love books because I have a lot of them. These are top tier ones that I adore, that I'd say if you want to check out hate to love, read these. First off, I'm going to start with my favorite romance book of all time and the book that kind of introduced me to hate to love. And of course, that is The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. If you've been on BookTube, Bookstagram, Book Talk for a while, you have heard about this book. It came out, I don't even know what year it came out, but it blew up on it came out in 2016, but it blew up on BookTube, and it kind of was the first book that introduced me to the world of romance, and I loved it. They have since adapted it into a movie. I don't really think the movie's that great. I don't know. I'm just not the biggest fan of movie adaptations these days. But man, if you just want an epic hate to love book, this is one for you. This book follows Lucy, who works at a publishing company, and she is the assistant to the CEO. Then we also have Josh in the book, who is the assistant to the other CFO of the publishing house. Both of these publishing houses kind of merge together, and they loathe each other. They have these little hating games they do. He glares at her, she glares at him, and then they learn that this job is going to open up for them, like to be the main assistant or like maybe get into publishing, and so they're both vying for the same job. Feelings happens. It was just chef's kiss, beautiful. I love it. There is a big strong community of people that love this book, and there's a big strong community of people that really don't like this book. I'm fine with either. Everyone's got their own preference, and that's totally okay. If you read this book and you hated it, I'm fine with that too, because like I said, we all have our preferences, but I just love this book, and it's one of, you know, it is my favorite romance book. It's the one that really got me into the door with it. Summertime is right around the corner, even though where I live, it's already in the 80s. Welcome to Virginia, where like in February, it was like 30 and now it's May and it's already in the high 80s. And I'm like, oh gosh, it's gonna be a hard summer, but that's okay. I'm trying to just brace myself with it because I loathe the winter. But either way, summer is around the corner. The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren is the perfect book for you. I'm sure you've heard about Christina Lauren. They have probably 20 something books at this point. I've read the majority of them, not within their series, their standalone books. And this continues to be one of my favorites, like top 3 of theirs. I've even done a whole author video on them, and I know I'm several books behind, so I probably should do an updated one. But this one, I just love and adore. So this book follows 2 characters. We follow Olive and Ethan. So Olive's twin sister is getting married to Ethan's best friend, I think. I don't think it's his brother. But either way, she's the maid of honor. He's the best man. And you're always put together when you're in that kind of pitfold. And they loathe each other. They cannot stand each other. Basically, the wedding happens. Everything's so happy. Yay, yay, yay. The reception comes where there's a lot of seafood and everyone eats it but Olive and Ethan, which I find just very ironic. And everyone gets food poisoning. But you guessed it, Olive and Ethan. So suddenly, the bride and groom can't even go to their own honeymoon. And so she's like, look, you're my twin sister. Just go in my place because I don't want to waste this money or this trip. And so basically, Olive and Ethan get a free paid vacation to Maui. Only catch is they have to act like they're newlyweds, even though they loathe each other. You can see where the plot is going 1,000 miles away. But man, set on Maui, beautiful, tropical, has a kind of fake dating aspect as well. And it's hate to love, just phenomenal. I love it. One of my favorites. Since we're on the topic of summer reads, why not talk about Beach Read by Emily Henry? This is her first romance she's ever written, and I think her only hate to love one, if I'm not mistaken. She's wrote Friends to Lovers since then, Second Chance Romance. I think Book Lovers is also kind of hate to love, but I think this one's more predominantly hate to love. I follow a character named January who is an author. She is a romance author. She writes happily ever afters, and her father passes away and she inherits his beach house, if you will, and she is not able to write because she's learned a lot of truths about her father that she never knew about. And then who's across the street from her or behind her backyard is Augustus, who she went to college with, and he's also a writer, and you guessed it, he's also suffering from writer's block. They also do not like each other. They think each of their own books. It's not that great. They're just not happy. They're just kind of nemesis, if you will, but they both kind of commiserate in their woes of not being able to write, and they decide to kind of exchange genres. Like, she'll take him on kind of romantic trips that'll inspire him to write happier books. He writes a lot of dark books, and he's going to take her to like the cult he's interviewing to inspire her to have some real depth and intenseness to her book. So it's a really great one. It is hate to love. It's light hate to love, I will say. They don't loathe each other quite as much, but they still do not like each other behind this book. But it's a beautiful one. It's got a lot of emotional depth to it. And despite the cover and the title, Beach Read, I wouldn't say it's an overly summer book because they don't do a ton of summery things. It's set in the summer, but it's got a lot of emotional depth. But if you want to read it at the beach, go for it. You know, it's a great hate to love one. Next up, we have The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker, one of my all-time favorite hate to love. I was going to do like 10 to 1, but I was like, this was going to be too hard, so I'm just going to talk about all my favorites. This is an amazing one. This one follows Calla, who does not have a great relationship with her dad. She learns that her dad is getting sick and will probably pass away. Calla and her mom left Alaska when they were really, really young to move to Canada because her dad just loved Alaska. He loved being a pilot, and he put that before his family. And so Calla reluctantly decides to go back to Alaska to kind of get to know her dad a little bit more. There she meets Jonah, who is also a co-worker of her dad, and he's a gruff young pilot. And when he sees Calla, he immediately loves her because she's city and she's rich and all of those many things. They have a very, they prank each other a lot. They loathe each other, but of course that loathe turns into love. And it's a beautiful book. It's great if you just want a great steamy hate to love romance. The Simple Wild series, that's right, it's a series. There's 2 more books in the series. Will not steer you wrong. Then we have some Mariana Zapata books. Both of these are kind of hate to love. I would say this one's a little bit more hate to love. This is about a character named Aurora who's going through a really bitter divorce, and she's also lost her mom a long time ago. And so she decides to go back to the state where her mom is from and where she grew up at. And she rents like this kind of above the garage apartment of this guy, only when she gets there, he's like, yeah, I never rented this out to you. My son did, and I really don't like you, so leave. But eventually he lets her stay, and he just cannot stand her because Aurora is happy and go lucky and wants everything but life. And Rhodes is quite the opposite. He's a single dad. He's busy. He doesn't have time for anything. But eventually those feelings become love, and it's a beautiful progression. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a hate to love. It's more like, I really, really don't like you. Aurora's always been nice to him, but she doesn't get why he doesn't like her. And eventually you'll learn why. Maria Zapata books are hellaciously long, but so worth it because you get into so much more of the character dynamics. You get a very organic and very realistic view of like timeline of a relationship. This one's amazing. As well as my favorite by her, The Wall of Winnipeg and Me. This one is about Vanessa, who is assistant to Aiden, who is a professional football player. And, you know, Vanessa's just kind of sick of being his assistant. He doesn't treat her well. He doesn't defend her. And she's like, you know what? I quit. I'm done. I'm done with this. I don't need this anymore in my life. And then 2 days later, he comes knocking on her door and he's like, hey, I need you to be my wife because I'm about to get deported because I forgot to renew my green card. Like, what the heck? Why would I do that for you? And he's like, I'll pay off all your college loans. You'll never want for anything. And she's like, you know what? That's too good to be true. So I will do it. So then they become like fake married, and then they become friends despite their animosity towards each other, because it is very much a hate to love book. Like, he does really not like her, doesn't talk to her at all, kind of loathes her. She does not like him because she doesn't talk to him, things like that. But again, much like her All Roads Lead to Here, very, very long, very great character dynamics, beautiful organic love story that I adore. This one also has a big part of obviously fake marriage. So if you want a 2-for-1, hate to love and fake marriage, boom, there you go. Next up is Unfortunately Yours by Tessa Bailey. Now, when a lot of people hear hate to love, they think of her other book, It Happened One Summer, but I think this one fits a little bit more, and I don't hear enough people talking about it. It's one of my favorites by her. She's written a lot. I've read a lot of her books. Lately, her books have not been hitting for me, but I still really enjoyed this one. This is the sequel companion to her book, Secretly Yours, which I did not like at all. But this one I really enjoyed. We follow the sister of the main character in the first book, Natalie, who she's coming home to her vineyard family kind of life where she licks her wounds because she lost a lot of money in New York with an investment, and she really needs some money because she's like, I want to start my own investment firm. I want to do all these things, but she doesn't have the money. Enter in August, who just moved to this, like, what's the winery? town in California. I cannot remember. Napa. I think it's Napa Valley or something like that. He moves there because he's opening up his own winery, only he has no clue what he is doing. And they do not like each other. They almost hooked up one night and then they just had this really intense hatred for each other, but then they learn of each other's circumstances and they decide, hey, let's get married. It's going to give me my inheritance money because Nally will get an inheritance if she marries. So she'll get half of her money for an investment. He'll get half his money to make his winery better. And it's just an easy deal. Of course, you guess what happens. Hate feelings, fake dating feelings become real. You get it. We all get it. But I enjoyed this one. Not a lot of people talk about it. I liked it a lot. Next up, we have The Worst Best Man by Mia Soso. Please forgive me as I forgot the characters' names in this book. But basically, the beginning of this book, we have our female character and she's about to get married. Everything's going great. She's about to walk down the aisle. It's going to be happy, happy. She's also a wedding planner. So she's like, this is going to be the most epic wedding. And then you know what? The groom stands her up and she's like, what the crap? Then she learns that the brother of the groom is the one that convinced him to not get married. And so she hates him. I want to say his name is Matt almost as well. Now, flash forward to maybe a couple years later, she's still a wedding planner. She's doing great. She might have the opportunity to get this really big promotion with this big company to do things. And she also has to co-work with the company as well. And who should run that company? Oh, but you guessed it. Her ex-groom's brother, Matt, or Max. It's one of those with the M. And she's like, oh, I freaking hate you. You ruined my life pretty much. And of course, they have to have forced proximity. If you want a book with forced proximity where they share one bed type of thing, this is a great book for you. But also Hate to Love, because I can't fault this girl for hating him. No freaking way. But you can see where it's going, and it's a super cute one that I don't hear talked about a lot, but I really enjoyed it. One that I always talk about, and that is Kiss My Cupcake by Helena Hunting. You've heard me rave about this for a while. It's a Hate to Love one that I don't hear anybody ever talk about. We follow Ronan and Blair. Blair is opening up her very own cupcake slash boozy shop, which sounds amazing, and she has put all of her money, all of her time, all of her dreams into this. And then next door, she learns that this guy named Roman? I hope that's his name, is opening up a kind of man's bar where they do axe throwing, things like that. It's loud. It's gonna mess up my dream. And so they just each don't like each other. They each will have different nights where they have promotions to kind of get more customers in their doors and things like that. But eventually they team up together to realize that's gonna help them with the customers. And you can guess where it's going. It's a super cute one. He's gruff. He wears plaid. She's the type of girl where she wears these 50 dresses with like crinoline under them and matches her undergarments accordingly. And he's like, I don't get that at all, but it's super cute, super great Hate to Love that I love. Next up, we have Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. This one is my favorite in her STEM series, I'll say that. I do love Red by her, which also could be kind of a hate to love thing, I guess you could say, but we're gonna stick with this one. This one follows Elsie, who is a scientist, and she's a theoretical physicist, excuse me. Am I gonna butcher this scientific language? Abso-freaking-lutely. And she's basically, you know, going to school and she's trying to become a theoretical physicist. And she also has a part-time job where she pretends to be somebody's girlfriend. Like, she is hired, not anything like, you know, kind of promiscuous, just like, hey, I'm going to a wedding and I'm supposed to bring a +1. I'm supposed to have this steady girlfriend. Will you pretend to be my girlfriend? She is kind of that. And she does this for this one guy, and then she meets his brother, Jack Smith, and he just loathes her. He glares at her. He doesn't like her. He kind of sees the facade between Elsie and her brother, and he's like, And then Elsie gets an opportunity to get an amazing job at this amazing college. I forget exactly what it is. Oh, MIT. She gets to be, get a professor job at MIT, which is amazing. And she's like, this is gonna be amazing. But a whole bunch of professors and stuff have to approve her. She's also vying for different jobs. And who's head of the physics department? None other than Jack, her pretend boyfriend's brother. Interesting. And not only that, but he's an experimental physicist. And what you learn about this book is experimental and theoretical physicists do not get along because they view things very, very differently. Like, it is like it is like really cutthroat. And it's interesting because she doesn't like Jack, he doesn't like her, things are happening. It's super cute. You'll learn a lot about science, whether or not you learn how to pronounce things. Obviously not, because I still can't, but I still really loved it. And the last book I want to talk about is Well Met by Jen DeLuca. This is my favorite book in the series, and I kind of think it's the only one worth reading. There, I said it, I said it. But this book follows a character named Emily, and Emily is not doing too well with her life, and she learns basically that her sister was in a car accident. She's okay, she's just a little banged up, and Emily decides to go to her small hometown in Maryland to help her sister because she has a teenage daughter, and so Emily's just there to help out some. And she gets roped into helping out her niece's like Renaissance fair that they do every year at this town. And it's like a big one. And there she meets Simon, who is one of her niece's teachers. And he just has a chip on his shoulder immediately. He does not like her. She does not like him. But somehow when they're at the Renaissance fair and he's dressed up like a burly pirate and she's dressed up like a witch, you know, he's like, oh my gosh, you're amazing. I love you. You're great. I will fight for your honor. And she's smitten. And then when they're not in the Renaissance fair, he's like, get the crap away from me. So she's like confused, like what's happening? Me too. But either way, it's a great hate to love one. I mean, even the book, he's like, nothing. It's like, no. But it's a cute one. I adore it. Would recommend it. So there you have my all-time favorite hate to love romances. I'm sure I'm missing some because I always do. But either way, these are just some of my favorite. If you want some amazing hate to love romances, read any of these, and I don't think I will steer you wrong. If you have some favorite hate to love romances, please leave them in the comments below because your girl is always looking for some more to read because I read primarily romance, and that's okay. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.